Okay, here we go. We're lighting up a beer. I call it a beer can alcohol stove. I'm not sure if it's made out of Coke cans or what it's made out of. See the little hash marks on here? They're 1 ounce increments. I'm putting in 1 ounce of fuel. You drip it in carefully just here, right like this. Because there's 8 holes in the top of this thing. 4 of them are at 20. And then 4 of them are at 40 thousandths. And the 40 thousandths hole is big enough for the alcohol to leak inside of the container. It's a little bit different than the other alcohol stoves I saw on the website. But there's no moving parts, there's no on-off switch, none of that stuff. Once you light it up, it just does its thing, it burns. If it doesn't burn long enough, you're just SOL. And the alcohol slowly leaks into the inside chamber. And it sure is a lightweight gizmo though too, and if the alcohol leaks inside your pack or something, it doesn't damage anything, or white gas is a little bit different.
Smells like rubbing alcohol.
Well, it's wood grain alcohol. You buy it in the hardware store.
Oh.
It's like $7.99 for a quart. The first time I used it, I used some rubbing alcohol that was 90%, and it worked, but wasn't the right stuff. So I've put in 1 ounce. See, we're down to 1 ounce right here. And you take the little cut-off tuna fish can down the bottom. You put a couple drips of alcohol down there. And then you light the whole contraption. And the little tinfoil can on the bottom is kind of like a heating tray to hold some fuel. The thing has to warm up, and the little alcohol down at the bottom is what warms it up. And now it's warmed up, and if you put too much preheating fuel in the bottom, it can take off like a scalded monkey sometimes. Now it's going good. We're making coffee. Kind of.
It's only 6 in the morning.
6 in the morning, that's time for coffee. That's what I'm thinking. And then the burn time is kind of like about 9 minutes when you put in 1 ounce of fuel. I've never tried putting in 1.5 ounces, ounce and a quarter, none of that stuff. The whole thing is arranged, the size of the cans, the size of the holes, and all the other happy stuff. It's all set up for 1 ounce of wood grain alcohol. It's enough to make one of the freeze-dried meals or a cup of coffee. Man, it's like a do-it-yourself thing. You make it at home. There's a website that shows some elaborate instructions, and I followed that, and I've made, 6 or 7 or 8 of them with different size holes, and until I perfected what I liked. See how we're doing here? Doesn't look all that exciting, but it's going. I'm assuming the holes in the back are burning. Coffee, coffee, coffee. Did you get any ants come in and visit you?
No.
I had a couple, like 3. I don't know.
Zipped up.
Yeah, they.
I had a couple of fuckers crawl my leg and biting me.
Nighttime?
No.
Oh.
Wherever. And then I smashed one and smelled it. They have a. What is this?
Cherry.
No.
I've eaten them. They taste like cherries. A little bit.
Ammonia?
Sour.
Ammonia?
Black ants?
Yeah.
They don't have much of that.
There's a smell. Ugly.
I've eaten them. They taste like cherries, kind of like. A cherry flavor. Two coffee filters. I don't mix the food and the coffee together. I wait for all the caffeine to get absorbed. Because the one time I weaned myself off of caffeine, I was making it the coffee weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. And then I realized if you wait a while, because I didn't want to get a headache from the caffeine withdrawal, so I was tapering it off. But then I was kind of cheating by you drink your coffee and wait as long as you can to make sure you absorb every little bit of caffeine. Let me go get my fishing thermometer and see how my water's doing. Oh, it's over here. See how hot it is. I hadn't used it for a while. They only have a certain range. It might be too hot, too cold. 116. Mine's probably not that hot, but I don't like to boil my coffee water.
How come?
When you make coffee, you're only supposed to heat the water to 190 degrees. And then soak because it'll make it taste bad and bitter and crappy.
Unless it's instant.
And then, yeah. And then you soak the ground, let it set in there for like 4 minutes, and then pour it in your filter. It'd be close to Starbucks if you put in about 90 cc's of fresh ground coffee beans. It's damn near exactly like a Starbucks. See what kind of temperature we got going here. It's the top of the coffee. It says 112. I can hear it starting to boil. Then I had for a coffee cup, I have a beer can, and I had one of those Snuggies on there. I cut the bottom off because it would never set level. It was always trying to tip over. So I said, you know what? We'll cut the Snuggie thing off the bottom. Doesn't have any problems standing up now. Some boiling action going. Must not be super duper, says 128. Okay, got boiling action. I'm taking it off. Let it set there for a while. And then you can see your alcohol stove is still going. There's no way to turn it off. You can put something over it and then smother it. And then, I've never done that, but then you don't know how much fuel is left in there. And you can add another ounce, but you don't really know what kind of fuel's left. So I just let it burn out. It's still burning at full force. As it runs out of alcohol, the flames will get lower and lower and lower, and it'll finally just go out. But there's no moving parts, and it's extremely light. I haven't weighed it, but you'd be surprised. It's extremely light. As far as stoves go, it's pretty light. Has its limitations, but it's homemade. It's cheap. Still going. Don't know how long the video is, but it's run for 10 minutes or so.
Still see a little flicker of flame.
Yeah, it's hard to see the alcohol flames. If you do it in broad daylight, you won't even hardly see it at all. It's hard to see. But it's still going. It kind of 3/4 of the way, but it gets the flames get smaller and smaller. There's no moving parts or knobs or adjustments. The flames they get a little bit smaller and smaller, and then they'll just fizzle out completely. But it's still going, and my coffee's made. And I've never experimented with it elaborately, but if you put in 3/4 of an ounce, maybe you could make coffee and save 1/4 ounce of fuel. But it's the way the whole thing is set up, the size of the cans and everything, 1 ounce is the ticket. That's what I use. And I've made, freeze-dried meals with it, but you don't want it to run out, the flames to run out before your water's boiling, so you can dump in your thing, because some different freeze-dried meals are more. I only have like 14 ounces of water and a 12-ounce beer can for a coffee cup. And some of the moisture will stay in the grounds, and I'll have a full cup of coffee. But the thing is, if you make one, is to try it out at home and see, if it'll boil 500 milliliters of water or 600 or whatever the hell they ask for on there. Yeah, it's pretty well burned out now. See, it lit this match on fire. There's still stuff going on. Flames are hella small now. Okay, I'm going to call it good. I'm going to pour my coffee and enjoy my morning joe. Still going. Still going. I don't see shit, but yeah, I see it. Lit the match on fire. There's still some little bitty flames there. I'm calling it good. That's the end of the happy beer can stove.